Right, so we're recording now a new video, guys. Um, as we normally do, we will look either on opening or some tactics or endings, or we're going to look at a fabulous game that happened yesterday in the Champion Chess Tour Finals 2023 in between Alireza Firouzja and Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Now, this game was played by Alireza with a massive accuracy, something like 97.3 says the engine, and just one inaccuracy in the game. But I want to show it to you what a complete perfect manner for Alireza to play this Queen's Gambit for white here. He was definitely in incredibly good shape. Well, yes, Abdusattorov did maybe one or two missteps for sure. Otherwise, Alireza couldn't have capitalized on this. So let's just go with d4 now. We're going to look as in depth as possible without staying like 1 hour with this analysis, although it might take even longer if you properly want to look at every single step that happened. So d4, d5, c4. We're going to skip now all the intricacies of taking, not taking, and what could have happened in the first 2-3 moves. So I just want to go straight to the core of this game. So normally developing theory move, book moves, all this stuff here, we are probably very much aware, those of us that play with white d4 and particularly Queen's Gambit here. The exchange variation now, c takes on d5, the exchange variation now, the position aligned named in the theory, in the book theory, and bishop g5. A pin, not the end of the world, of course. You could very well play bishop to g5 here, not a problem. e3, you're ready now to develop your own bishop. Very positional. That's why it's called the positional line, because it is positional. Castles, bishop d3. What can be more natural, more, so to speak, predictable way to develop your pieces? Rook f to e8. Important to get your rooks on an open or semi-open files. Knight to e2. Knight f3 is also playable, but you need to expect something like bishop g4 happening. So if you don't want to allow this to happen, you may want to go on e2. h6 now, trying to determine what's going to happen with that bishop on g5, which chooses to go to h4. You don't particularly want to make a trade. c6 now. That means there will be no knight and no bishop going to b5 for further frustrating blacks. Castles, short, and a5, trying to expand on the queen side, taking more space. Rook a to c1. Again, you want to get your rooks on a semi-open files, and particularly if this guy were to become a liability, you want to keep an eye on them. If black, say, want to go something like b5, the rook will keep a constant eye on c6. So that's the thing, okay? So because black normally wants to go a5 and wants to go b5 and, you know, pushing those pawns towards white, but rook a to c1 wants to tell us, well, you got to be careful about that weakness of yours. So knight goes from b8 over to d7 for some further relocation. a4 puts a stop now to any b5 attempt that might happen, which it won't. And now knight goes back. And if you tell me, yeah, but what's the point of getting the knight on b8? I'm pretty sure Nodirbek just wanted simply to relocate the knight via a6 and b4, because b4, my chess friends, is an excellent outpost for the black knight. So if one outpost had been denied, just try really to go to that particular square where your knight will not be challenged by any other pawn. So knight a6, knight b4 seems to be quite eternal, so to speak, as eternal is possible in a game of chess. f3 now. There's no pin gonna happen. Space have been taken by this move. Also preparing a possible pawn break with e4. So f3, like, you know, in many instances is that kind of multi-purpose stuff that you play f3, taking some squares from them and preparing e4 in the future. So knight a6, as we have discussed, the knight wants to relocate. Bishop now. Oh, and I forgot to say, of course, f3 allows the bishop to travel to e1 and back if necessary, but most likely f2, because that might be in principle, in the future, that sort of weakness, and you don't want to get your king checked. Of course, you might think about playing some king h1 at some point, but bishop f2 just spares, wastes no time. Knight to b4, as you probably imagine, wants to capture the bishop on d3. You don't want to give them that bishop. Guys, that's now the moment to recognize how important is this bishop, how strong and how frustrating for black this bishop on d3 of white is. Now, you don't want to let them take your guy, so because you've created the necessary space here. By the way, amongst many other reasons, rook a to c1 allows the bishop to drop on b1 without your rook being blocked to participate in the game later on. So now the bishop on b1 here, which hasn't been exchanged, keeps a very, very sharp and very incisive diagonal on h7, b1, h7. This is serious. This is very powerful diagonal. So do not trade your super active pieces, especially those ones that prove to be very dangerous. b6 now. Amongst many other things, that the bishop retains now the various options to moving through the game, and it's good to pushing forward. Maybe you're going to do some pawn break at some point. Knight to g3, relocating the knight. You want to get your guys to be as active as possible. Rook to a7 being played now. Maybe they want to move the rook along the 7th rank at some point, supporting some of those pawns. h3 being played now. Or like a waiting move, that is. And it might seem that it sort of like creates some weakness on the dark squares here, which is exactly what Nodirbek will try to take advantage of by instance playing now bishop to d6. Obviously, bishop on e7 didn't do a great deal of nothing on the e7 h4. Now after h6 being played, obviously there is no problem. So bishop to d6 wants to say, I'm gonna claim those dark squares leading to your white king. Queen to d2. White rooks are now connected. Very nice. White rooks are connected. Queen moved over to the 2nd rank. Just as a strange thought. This knight, probably black were going to leave them there forever. But obviously now the knight stops any attempts from the white queen to either play d or c and to deliver some potential attacks if this guy weren't here. So I know it's a very, 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 very many ifs, but it's just good to keep in mind this kind of thoughts. Now, bishop to b8, and you may wonder why. Because actually, black wants to create a very deadly battery with the bishop and the queen here. And imagine the knight moves, then you're just going to deliver checkmate. You know, it's important to try and be as efficient as possible. Rook f to d1. Bishop to e6. You got to get your stuff somewhere. You just got to get, so that's a bit of a painful thing now for black, but you need to develop your pieces. Bishop here probably would have stifled the rook. Bishop here probably a little bit more slow. This one here doesn't really hit something very heavily, and it's painful, but sometimes you need to find the only available square for your guys to go and play. You need to develop your things. So bishop a6, knight now tries a relocation, knight to e2. Rook now doubles up on the e file, because this is the weakness. Actually, this is the weakness here. So now we can actually see, we can have the revelation of black's intention when they did the rook a7, now doubling up on this particular weakness. Therefore, the bishop sort of have to stay here. And amongst many other things, the bishop might be dropping on c8. Bishop might take this guy here. And you better take with the knight, because if you take with the bishop, you always have the problem, the perennial threat on e3, which is the weakness happening as soon as you push f3, that is. So, rook now c3. Well, you want to keep an eye on this guy. Knight to d7. Also, again, very much playable for black here, my chess friends. Bishop c8, very much playable. And I would say incredibly natural. And he didn't play it. That bishop c8 would have been a very, very natural way to actually activate your rook's battery, whilst your bishop retains its ferocity, along this diagonal here. That would be another good idea. Knight d7 now. Not that much of a attacking, striking move. Pawn break right in the middle of the board now. Obviously, if black were to capture back, you could take with the pawn. c5 tries to complicate things in the middle game, crazy tactics. And now, maybe not necessarily an unexpected move, knight to h5 already means a bit of a pressure on this particular guy, means that the queen already looks at h6. There is something brewing, and there is something building up here. And if you throw in the bishop, guys, I'm recording, if you throw in the bishop on b1, now you can see that actually quite is something that you need to pay close attention to. Pawn takes and pawn takes. And not just that, but the rook is so happy at this moment after f3 took on e4. Look at this rook. I know there is a bishop here, but just keep this in mind. Now, bishop now wants to trade. Now, I suspect Abdusattorov now got a little bit concerned about this bishop. And amongst other things, he thought that that might be an active way to actually enable, again, the rooks hitting e4. Okay, so probably what he thought of, I'm going to move the bishop here. I'm going to remove my opponent, incredibly active bishop. If they take, I'm going to take with the knight. I'm going to further frustrate the rook on c3, and my beautiful rook battery will be hitting on e4. So probably these were some of the thoughts in Nodirbek's mind when he did it. Now knight takes on a2. Now, a very human-like move, rook a3. Guess what is Engine's top move recommended here? Which, by the way, when I was streaming yesterday, I was mentioning this, but I wasn't very, very confident about its efficacy. I was thinking about rook to g3, aware that the bishop might take back. And because I'm a human, and most of the time, even if the bishop takes, the engine considers after knight g3, it's an incredibly strong attack, and it's totally worth it considering I'm playing, given the fact of the knight f5, double attack here, pressure with the queen on h6, huge opportunities for white. Nevertheless, this is an excellent move, my chess friends. Knight goes back on its outpost, pretty much untouchable, this knight here on b4, but that's not where the king is. Knight is here, but the target is on g1 actually. So knight to g3, still got the knight in the right place. Guess what? Knight wants to jump on f5, and it's really scary here. They try to make a battery, trying to demoting the knight from moving away. And now, guys, we're going to see a brilliancy. We're going to see a brilliancy. Give it some seconds now and see if you can figure it out yourselves where the big strike is going to happen. If you haven't seen it, this is it. Knight to g7. Almost fell off the chair, but not quite, because I was actually wondering when is he going to play those kind of brilliant sacrificial tactics, which takes place right now before our very own eyes. Look at the position. Phenomenal pressure here. This guy ready to do f5. Queen already hitting h6, and the rook itching to coming into play. Knight takes g7, and now you could say it's pretty much game over. Took a pawn. h6 is completely now attackable. King had to take, because I would have taken your rook anyway, so the knight was hitting the rook. Knight to f5, another fork here. But maybe more importantly, guys, you would say, yeah, I'm going to take the guy's rook now. There is another detail more important. What if you actually checkmate, or you destroy even more now here? Because the knight on f5 and the queen on d2, they're actually looking at h6. So we're actually looking at the combined action of in between these two pieces here. So we got the knight and the queen. More important than taking just a rook on e7, which it's good, but you got something absolutely killing over there. Now rook to g3, checks, of course. The queen is right here. What are you gonna do? This is just game over. So you have to sack the queen, because if you don't sack the queen, if you don't sacrifice the queen here, that's gonna be just checkmate. Queen takes, bishop takes, and bishop takes. You don't go for the rook. Remember, this is just kind of like secondary here. You're not going for the rook, guys. You're gonna go for the checkmate. Queen takes h6, and you do want to checkmate. And at this stage here, Nodirbek Abdusattorov resigned, because frankly not even f6 works. If you're saying, yeah, I'm going to play f6 now and the rook we're going to guard g7, to no avail really. You could do f6, but then queen going to play something like g6, checking the king, forking the bishop. you can't really block here because it's just checkmate straight away. And if the king goes to h8, then you may just very well get rid of the bishop, and then again a bunch of problems with checks everywhere and stuff. So, and mind you, there is another rook here that might be coming into place very soon, and it's a disaster for black. And at this high level that the super gems are playing, black had just resigned at this stage. That game that happened yesterday, 9th of December 2023, Champion Chess Tour, that happens right now as we speak in Ontario, Canada. And now it's 10th of December, and I thought about making a short video, guys. I'm going to put it on YouTube and on some other social media links available to me. And by the way, subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on Twitch, guys, so we can like meet live, so to speak, face to face via the webcams when I am streaming. Maybe we could do some friendly games, analyze some of your own personal games, guys. So thank you very much for visiting this short video. Appreciate your presence, guys, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.